Hi everyone, welcome to the fifth and final video on the themes of biology. In this video, we're going to talk about evolution. Now, evolution can be considered as the change in a population over time. It's important to remember that this is due to random chance. Organisms don't wake up one day and decide to evolve. As cells reproduce, the possibility of changes to the DNA sequence arises, and this is what we call mutation. Organisms pass down their DNA to their offspring, and any mutations can be passed down during this process. If the mutation is beneficial in the current environment, then that individual will be likely to survive longer and so reproduce more, passing their mutation down to the next generation. This can lead to the population trending towards the new mutation over time, and this is what we know as natural selection. Let's look at an example of how natural selection could change a population over time. In this hypothetical example, we're going to consider a species of caterpillar. Within the population, we have differences which are heritable, that is, passed down in the DNA. In this case, the difference is one of color. Some caterpillars are orange, while others are green. Habitat of these caterpillars is a plant which, as most do, has green leaves. Many predators are visual hunters, and that's the case we're going to consider here. The bird that preys on this particular species can see the orange caterpillars more easily than the green, and so those ones will be eaten first, leaving the green ones behind to reproduce. Since only the green caterpillars were left, the offspring inherited the gene, making them green, and so the population as a whole will tend towards having what was, in this case, the more beneficial trait. This theory of evolution was most famously put forward by Charles Darwin, and his theory helps to explain what we describe as the unity and diversity of life. He described this process as descent with modification, in which a single ancestral species can give rise to multiple descendant species over time, through changes that arise within the population. It's important to remember that we're dealing with evolutionary time here, so consider this in terms of millions of years rather than days or weeks. The idea of common ancestry underlies the unity of life. For example, all life uses DNA to encode their genetic information, and so this is a process that has been retained as it has been passed down. Random mutation and the resulting natural selection, as we previously discussed with the caterpillars, is what underlies the diversity of life, how one species can differ from another. Let's consider another hypothetical example with some birds here. At the top of what we call a phylogenetic tree, we have our ancestral species. At some point in time, a mutation arose that resulted in two distinct lineages in the population. Now, this doesn't mean that a bird laid two eggs and two different species hatched from those eggs. But what it does mean is that a small difference arose, and that difference was perpetuated in some of the descendants, leading to more substantial differences over long periods of time. Again, consider this in terms of millions of years. Now let's assume that one of those lineages, the one on the left of the diagram, went through a second such event, and that over time, those descendants diversified to result in a dove and a hawk. The other lineage on the right-hand side of the diagram went through two such events, resulting in a duck, a chicken, and a turkey. Now, while this is just a hypothetical example, I hope it gives you some insight into how we can combine biological information, for example, from genomic and proteomic studies, to try to piece together some of the history of living organisms like ourselves. Thank you for watching, and please make sure that you check out the other videos available in this section.